Today we play golf.
Let me show you how we do it in the pros.
Welcome to Behind the Golf Brand Podcast.
I never miss with the 7-iron.
A conversation with some of the most interesting innovators and entrepreneurs behind the biggest names in golf.
My friends were the golf clubs. I lived on the golf course. I lived on the driving range.
From pro talk
You should learn something from each and every single round you play in.
to fun from on and off the green.
Why would you play golf if you don't play it for money?
Just let me put the ball in the hole.
This is Behind the Golf Brand Podcast with Paul Liberatore. Behind the Golf Brand Podcast is sponsored by On Point, the revolutionary three-dimensional domed golf ball marker. On Point provides alignment recognition as small as a degree of inaccuracy from the planned course of the putt face angle. Endorsed by Jim Furyk, U.S. Open champion and 17-time PGA Tour winner. On Point alignment technology has been proven to increase putting performance and help lower your score. Visit onpointgolf.us and be sure to use code GA10 for a 10% discount. On Point, make more putts.
What's up, guys? Paul from Golfers Authority. Welcome to Behind the Golf Brand Podcast. This week, I have my good friend Sal Sayed from Arccos. Probably by far one of the smartest people I've had on the show. I've had some smart ones, but I think Sal is probably going to take the cake on this one. Yeah. He's shaking his head like, no. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're smart. But a lot of you guys probably have an Arccos, or if you don't, you should. It is probably one of the coolest tech that's out there right now in golf. They've been blowing up over the last couple of years. I started taking notice of them probably like 3 years ago, maybe 4, when they started working with Cobra. And technology is amazing. And where they're going right now is they're going to change the game of golf. So I'm really super excited to have them on the show. Just kind of let you guys know about who they are and who Sal is, right? Because he's been the captain of the ship and just amazing. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate you having me, and let not Paul fool you. I'm definitely not the smartest, but I'm fortunate enough that I have really, really smart.
He's one of the smartest I've had. I've had the smart guys on the show, but I just love tech.
Work with you. That's
So we're going to go back in time. This is how the show is. I don't think if you may or may not heard it, but like I always ask, like, okay, what's your first memory of golf? But what did you start playing golf? Because aren't you originally from Pakistan?
I am. Yeah. So I grew up in Pakistan. My dad is a golfer, and he introduced me to the game. And I have a first memory, and I remember I played tennis all the time, and he'd be like, we belonged to a country club, and he would go golfing, and I'd be playing tennis, and I'd watch him, and I'd watch his friends play, and like, oh, this game like doesn't look fun. Like, people are walking, I'm over here running around, and he convinced me to try it one time. And I remember like the third hole, I hit a 5-iron pure, and I was like, wow, that felt so good. And all of a sudden, like I'd say, I realized when you're inside golf, it's very different. Like when you're playing, the 4 hours go by so fast versus if you're outside and looking, your dad's finishing a round, looks like a long time. So I was fascinated by that, like how, that time just kind of flies when you're golfing. And that 5-iron got me hooked, that one shot.
Once the shot happens, it's like it's like a drug, right? It's like, whoa.
What's interesting about that is like when we were starting Arccos in the early days, we're interviewing some of the design firms to help us. We ended up going with IDEO. But I remember I had this conversation with one of these designers who he was like, he didn't know about golf. And he was like, let's discuss golf. And so we did. And I described golf. And he's like, it's the same. I understand why golf is so like, why I don't want to use the word addictive because I don't think that's the right description, but why it like absorbs you so much. It's because like he's like, that's the same thing we do in Angry Birds, where like the time from like when you take an action to the outcome is between 5 and 7 seconds. And apparently there's like research that shows like that's kind of the optimal time where all you do is just are focused on that shot. And like now that I've shared it, next time when you hit a golf shot, like you literally won't know what's happening around you. All you'll be like, I hit that shot, I want to see where the ball ends up. And that's what you're zoned in. And that's kind of the hook. When you hit a great one, you're zoned in even more.
That's like, it's interesting you say that too, because I never really thought of it that way. Because there's not many sports where you're like that, where you're zoned, like you're just I can't think of anything really. I mean, maybe it's probably even less time, right? Like in baseball or like football or basketball, it's probably you're talking seconds, like a millisecond, right? But in golf, it's like the whole setup, the approach, like your swing, your shot, waiting to see where it lands, this problem solving. I think the word is addictive. I would agree. I mean, I think most people who start playing are like, I think everybody, unless they just
addictive has a negative connotation to it. And I think golf, by and large, brings like really positive outcomes in people's lives, whether it's from exercise, mental health, competition, all these standpoints. So that's why I tend to not use that word.
No, yeah, it's like a stigmatization towards it or something. Like people go, oh yeah, it's bad. So you played? So how old were you when you first played that 5-iron?
13 when I hit that. 12 or 13 in that kind bucket. I did.
So,
yeah.
So did you play then in Pakistan before you moved to the United States, or like?
I would play with my dad and his friends. I didn't really have any other. I mean, there were like a couple of friends who were younger, like my age, who would play. But it really was like older people. But I still continued playing like tennis and cricket. I also played ping pong.
Dude, I love all those sports.
Yeah.
Dude, cricket's massive, right? In India, Pakistan. It's huge. It's huge.
I mean, like when India and Pakistan play each other in a cricket match, 1 billion people watch it on TV.
Really?
Yeah, 1 billion people watch it on TV.
Oh my gosh.
It's
a beautiful sport to watch, I think. Because a couple weeks ago, my son had a little league practice, and there was a bunch of men playing cricket like on a field by themselves, where they set it all up, and it was like very mesmerizing, like watching it. And you're like, I don't even understand the game, but it was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Those big old knee pads and stuff.
The funny thing is, the first ever international cricket match was between USA and Canada in like 1848 or 28 or something.
Really?
Like that. Yeah, the first ever one. And in fact, I think the first time England, which kind of like the originator of the sport, played an international match was against United States, and it was in Manhattan, like 31st Street. Like there was a cricket stadium over there, St. George's or Cricket Club or something. Yeah,
so I'm surprised that didn't really pick up. It's still not as popular.
So baseball actually. So cricket, baseball came out of cricket, and that's how. So we basically, I'd say my guess. I haven't studied enough history, but I think it might have been. We really don't want to be very much like the English. Yeah. So in some sense, like we like coffee better. They like tea.
And plus we kicked their ass in a couple wars. So
we had some issues,
Yeah, we're like, oh, it's like your parents. Like I don't want to be like my parents, right? So you're just like, I'll just make my own version.
We did keep golf though. There was like big conversations.
That's Scottish.
That's Scottish.
That's probably why, because they're like, oh, that's not British.
Yeah, but it was like the RNA, like basically, that probably is why it like stayed. Because there was like, when you read the books, like the 1900s or late 1800s when USG was being formed, there was a lot of talk about making sure that the two rules stay in sync and lockstep. And so there's always been this like RNA and USGA kind of semi-formal relationship in terms of compromises and keeping both parties happy so that the rules stay the same.
Neutral. It's like completely neutral. Like we'll be Switzerland. Like we'll just don't want to. So when did you come to the United States? How old were you?
I was 18 when I came. I went
for college, or did your whole family immigrate?
I came here for college. Came here on my own. Went to Ohio Wesleyan, which is a small liberal arts college in Ohio. And I actually was the tennis captain of the tennis team over there. But I played more golf. I was fortunate that the women's tennis coach, her family owned a golf course, and they would just let me play.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was really, really awesome. Thank you if you guys are listening. Thank you very much.
I will send you a free Arccos.
Yeah, and if you want Arccos sensors are on me. But in fact, her family was, I don't know if you remember Ben Curtis. He won the British Open. And
yeah.
It was his grandparents that owned the golf course. And
oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So so you came by yourself, and what was your degree in?
Computer science and mathematics.
So what did you want to do when you grew up? did you want to work for like as an
I wanted to
engineer?
when I came to America, I came like I loved the idea that in America you could actually do anything you wanted, and it really I would say has held true for me. Like to me, this is the one country where it gives you the biggest opportunity to start. I mean, lets you take a risk and reward it appropriately or better than any other place in the world. Is the system or the society we have? It's accepting in that sense. The risk appetite's there, and the acceptance of entrepreneurs. Like I would say, like probably no other culture. And I always felt like I wanted to build things and do my own thing. And this would be the place where I would do it. I didn't know what, but
You knew something, right? Like it was
that's what I like, building stuff, and this is where I should come to build. And I majored in computer science and mathematics because I grew up with computers. I was fascinated by them. I felt it would be something like tech related that I would do, and I was always good at math growing up. I actually there was like I won like a best mathematician in the country or something like that kind of award. University of Cambridge does like exams, A-level exams, which is like equivalent of like high school, and we have it countrywide. And so I knew I was good at math and tech, and I wanted to build stuff, and this would be the place to come do it.
So what year did you graduate college? Like 99, 2000?
I graduated 2003.
Oh yeah, see, I'm older than you. Haha. I'm just kidding. I graduated from 2000. That's why. So after you got out, then what was your first job? Were you working for a tech company, or were you working in engineering? Or what were you
I
doing?
actually, with my tennis coach, who was a consultant at Arthur Andersen, we tried to start electronic health records company. So we worked on that. I worked on that for like about a year before college, or before graduation, and probably 6-8 months after. And then that was like the time, like it was post.com. There's not a lot of funding going into tech.
There was nothing going on, right? Because the bubble had bursted in like 2000, 2001.
Yeah. So we couldn't raise any money. So I ended up joining like a pharmaceutical company doing software development. And I did that for like 2.5 years. And I realized,
you were miserable.
Yeah. I was like, I want to be in a startup.
Dude. You're like, I was in corporate America, and I realized like this is not the right place for me. Like, let's all be honest. I've done that too. It sucks. You're like, I was in a cubicle all day, and I was like miserable, and I was like bored.
Yeah, exactly. So,
right? so then you're working there, and were you like?
So then I joined a startup. I was like, all right, let's take the plunge. And the risk, I mean, for me, it was honestly like at that point, I was like, I couldn't start a company because I needed to have, like basically either a company's got to sponsor me where they say like, hey, this guy's smart and talented enough that we want to sponsor like H-1B work visa. I couldn't just go start something.
Oh yeah, I think about that.
And so I had to have a job where the company, like where my kind of skills were in demand. At which point, like there was scarcity in terms of like there were more engineers wanted than were available in America. And so, but I ended up joining a startup because I was like, startup's going to be a lot more fun, which it turned out to be. Like,
where was that at? Like, what were you living on the East Coast or West?
This was Pittsburgh.
Oh, Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh considers itself East Coast. However, it's like only 2.5 hours from Columbus, Ohio. And so I always like when I got to Pittsburgh, I was like, oh yeah, the Midwest, and people would get really offended. So I quickly I was like, okay, it's not.
They're like, no, we're Pennsylvania, okay? And you're like, yeah, Pennsylvania's a big state, and it goes east and west.
Yeah, so it was like to me, like, but I love Pittsburgh, by the way. Like, it's still
city.
I'd say it's probably might still be my favorite city in the U.S. And so I was there for 4 years doing software development, data architecture.
What kind of startup was it? Like, what were they making?
It was a competitor to Salesforce.com. So it's a CRM system.
What's it called?
It's called Campaigner CRM. So we were acquired by J2 Global, which is a public company in the Bay Area. But the cool thing for me was if I program bad stuff, we would get like, because we had a bunch of customers. So you'd get like
instant feedback,
off emails like, okay, like this is not working, and that like so it was rewarding in the sense when you build cool stuff, you're getting feedback. This is awesome. If you're making mistakes, you're getting feedback. This is not good. And
no, it's cool. It's like because you're not working in a bubble, right? It's not like, oh, I'm programming this or I'm making this, and then 6 months later, it goes to production, and you're like, I
Yeah.
remember that thing.
Yeah. So it was cool just being on that. I felt like I was on the front line making an impact. Like the things that I was doing, people caring about, using or not using, depending upon the quality of the work.
So then what happened?
Then I got married.
Uh-oh.
And
Sorry, ladies.
Then I met my wife in Pittsburgh, and it was so at that point, I think actually I would say like my marriage was a really, really important moment in my life because it gave me like talking to my wife, it gave me the confidence to like, all right, let's
support too, right?
Yeah, there's like a support system. And I was like, okay, so for me to start a company, I felt like I needed to gain a little bit better understanding of business and also to build my resume so it'll be easier for me to raise financing. And so I applied to business schools. I was fortunate enough to get accepted by Yale, and I actually was optimizing on golf courses. So I applied to Duke, and I ended up picking Yale because my wife wanted to go to Yale, like us to move to Yale in Connecticut instead of Duke. So those are the compromises. However, that was going to be my choice anyway because that golf course is incredible. And I was like, if I'm going 2 years to business school, I'm going to go somewhere where I can golf a lot. And cool. I sure did that.
And I got better, but not good enough.
Never good enough.
No, that's that whole thing, right? That's the drug. It's like always trying to get better, figure it out. It's a problem. Yep. So then you went to Yale, and then you got your master's, MBA.
Yeah, I got my MBA. That's right. And I played, I would guess, probably in the 2 years, between 220 to 270 rounds of golf.
Yeah, he's married. You could tell.
I had a very supportive wife.
Yeah, I was kidding. Did you guys have kids then, or do you have kids now, or no?
We have one baby girl now. She's like 20 months, but no kids then.
Oh, so it's like young. Yeah, it's like those early years where you can just like.
And also in business school, business school is a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. Oh
yeah, it is.
I have flexibility. Like I could, there's a golf course right there. Like I was just optimizing my time.
Exactly. Yeah. Or that's what you tell yourself. That was like me, man. I was in law school. I know it was the same thing. It was like, a lot of reading.
It's work, but you gotta balance your priorities. And for me, I've always and my wife knows it. I was I'm happiest when I'm able to golf. Like mental health. I would say I'm in the happiest state when I'm able to golf. And winter, the thing that keeps me happy right now is I know golf's around the corner. It's 2 months away.
It's I don't know. It's like the euphoria you feel after working out, where you feel complete, your brain's kind of chill, So then you graduated from Yale with your master's, and then what did you do?
So I was actually working with a co-founder of mine, Clinton. We started working on the concept of, tracking data and stats for golf. That summer, I was a fellow at the Yale Entrepreneurial Institute. Got to know, so basically what Yale, now it's called Center for Innovative Thinking at Yale. So they rebranded it. They picked 10 student/professor as well, teams across all the schools in the university. And then we'd go through a summer fellowship, and that was an amazing program. And I got introduced to a lot of people who ended up becoming investors in the business. And so basically the idea at that time was, how can we track stats and data in golf? And that's where we started. But we quickly, I got introduced to the CEO of Callaway, George Fellows, who had shared that Callaway is working on a similar technology, and they're basically close to launch. And I realized, I was well, if they're close to launch, then maybe my thinking is a little behind times, because if a big company's doing it, that means I wasn't thinking far enough ahead. And turns out, there's so many interesting things that happen, but should I keep going?
Hell yeah.
So we organized, I was all right, if Callaway's doing it, what else can I do in golf? And a bunch of us, 10 of us students came up with a plan. We're Bandon Dunes, we should go to Bandon Dunes. we created
Play golf.
yeah. Well,
Peace out.
how are students going to pay for it? So we convinced Yale to
Research.
pay for it. But in return, what we did was we organized literally a full-on golf summit. Like they're talking about the future of golf. We invited some of the leading minds, whether like there's Jim Urbina, who's like co-architect of Old McDonald at Bandon Dunes was there.
Mm-hmm.
We invited the head of R&D at Callaway, Alan Hocknell. And then there was like business school professors who did case studies on. We created case studies on the future of golf. And so we created this amazing like 60, 70 person summit around the future of golf. And over there, I got to know the head of R&D at Callaway, Alan Hocknell, well. And eventually, I mean, at that time, Callaway was kind of struggling. And Chip, when he came in, he's like, we're going to put Chip Brewer, CEO now of Callaway, said we're going to put everything non-core on the shelf. And they reached out to me and they're like, do you want to license this technology? And we said, yeah, we'll do it.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah, I do.
Yeah. Although that technology, we don't use any of it. It wasn't like we had to kind of scrap it and basically build everything
from
ourselves.
Scratch.
But it still was.
But it gave you initial framework. And I mean, you got to, like, what's going up there with like running my brands is that you just have to go head first into it and let things break and figure it out. Instead of being like, well, and
yeah, you just got to do it.
Might not be happy with what you have, but it's like, well, at least it got me going. Right.
Yeah.
And then redeveloping it. So what year was that? Like 2012?
13. 2013. Yeah, 2013.
So is that kind of like the foundation then for Arccos in the very beginning? Was like when that occurred, you're like, okay, we can really do something with this. Like my idea, because no one was doing any AI stuff or anything data driven. There's zero data driven anything in golf.
Yeah, I mean, basically, to me, it was when you look at golf, like everything you buy, like the clubs you're buying, the lessons you're taking, the fitting you're going through, the balls you're picking, all that stuff has to translate to your scoring. That's why you're doing it, so you can score better.
Exactly.
But nobody was, and even right now at scale, other than really us, is tracking what's happening on the golf course. Are you actually performing better based on the decisions you're making? And so to me, I was like, that is the end all be all. Like in the end, we're trying to perform the best on the golf course, yet nobody is figuring out what the heck's happening on the golf course.
Yeah, you're not spending the time. Yeah, you don't know what happens when you're out there. You go, I had a couple good shots and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Here's my scorecard. And it's like, well, that's not going to tell you anything.
Yeah. Scorecard just tells you, like, it doesn't give you the why. It gives you like, okay, you played well or not. You have no idea.
Yeah, it gave you a grade. Oh, you're a C- player. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, I better go practice some more.
It's not doing a diagnosis. So our belief always has been that one, like what's happening on the golf course should be getting tracked and analyzed properly. But then the decisions that are going to be made are like, this is the data that's going to inform and drive the best decision making, whether it's you as a golfer, how you should warm up, what lessons you should take, what stuff you should buy. But even beyond that, like if you're an OEM, like Ping just mentioned, I mean, I'm not speaking out of turn because they've already shared this, but looking at Arccos data, their engineers now do fitting a little bit differently for their wedge, like the 58, 54, 56 degree wedges, because they're like, 60%, like the average chip distance is 40 yards. So that's what they should be fitting from to optimize that. And 60% of those shots are taken from the rough. But before that, when you go to...
It's all hypothetical, right? When they're doing it originally, they're like, well...
Yeah, they're doing it from turf, like a lot of times, like a lot of fitting could be happening. So...
yeah, because that really happens a lot, right? When you're a horrible golfer, you're actually on where you want to be with your... So, that's crazy. So then, I mean, you guys are doing a lot of stuff. So your initial product then, was it the smart sensors? Is that kind of what got you in? Like, what was the first product you brought to market?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it was we had an awesome actually team, like the early team with Ahmad and Fabrice. They're like two of my very close friends.
Yeah.
Engineer, Fabrice, one of the top engineers, Evan, who's still like awesome. So we had this, and Colin, another guy, we had this amazing, cool group of people, and we built
people.
The interesting thing was we were doing Bluetooth sensors at that time, and this was Bluetooth low energy because we had the to make the sensors last a number of rounds, like 40, 50 rounds before you place a battery. And to do that, it wasn't really, I mean, Bluetooth Low Energy wasn't even where we needed. So we hacked Bluetooth Low Energy, and we had to basically connect and disconnect 14 sensors with your smartphone. I remember like we had a demo with Apple, because I thought like if we got to Apple stores, it'll set a quality mark. It'll also hold us to like, because it's hard, really, really hard to get into Apple stores.
Oh, yeah, it's super hard, right?
Yeah. Like they only have like 10 outside non-Apple products. So, and I don't know how many products there are in the world, but the odds are minimal. But I thought like if we, that's the goal we set, it'll push us towards building a better product. Because to me, Apple kind of sets the standard in greatness in product.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we did this demo, and they were like, "Wow!" Like Apple folks were like, "How the hell are you guys connecting like this many sensors with like we didn't know like our phone could do this." And we'd actually figured out, like our engineers were so smart, they'd figured out a way to make 14 sensors connect and like with
so it's like beyond brilliant. It's like so smart. It's like
it was really, really fascinating watching.
Yeah, it blows your mind. You're like, how in the hell?
I mean, it really is. I mean, when you take like, I think like the creation process of a physical sensor and like the digital stuff, like ether, like messages going through the ether. I mean, it's amazing how it all works, and like,
awesome
how these like engineering minds, the great minds, are able to conjure up like amazing solutions where, like, I mean, all looks lost. I mean, those are interesting, fascinating days, which we had a lot of early on because none of this had been done. So every like week we're like, oh, we don't know if this is even possible. Like, can this be done?
Yeah, like you're bridging the gap, right? The gap that no one ever tried. So you're literally the frontier. It's a frontier. Like you're using the technology that's available.
The most advanced Bluetooth Low Energy exploiters in probably the world at that point, which was fascinating because there were no answers. Like what these guys were doing, were engineer. There was nobody, not even Apple, that could help us with that. So we had to figure it out ourselves.
Amazing.
Which was fascinating.
So then when did you guys first come to market? What year was that? 15?
That was 2014. So we raised our first round of financing in June of 2013. And then we launched the product in Apple stores in November of holiday season 2014, which we were very, very proud and excited.
So you launched the sensors and then the app, right?
Yeah, sensors and the app. So basically at that time, it was much simpler analytics because like we actually had really advanced analytics behind the scenes, but what we were exposing was very simple because even on the PGA Tour, like the only thing that talked about from a actual correct stats was strokes gained putting. They didn't have like the other strokes gained driving, approach, off the tee, all that stuff like around the green. They didn't have that. PGA Tour didn't have that. And so we knew, and strokes gained putting was also in its infancy. I think it had just been rolled out that year. And so what we were doing from an analytics standpoint was behind the scenes, we were doing all the strokes gained calculations, but we were converting it into a handicap. So we're giving you a handicap for each facet. Like you're driving like a 10 handicap, or you're putting like a 5 handicap, which was really powerful information because you start getting a sense of where your strengths and weaknesses lie. But we knew that strokes gained is always going to be richer because it's translating into how many strokes can you get better by, because that's the direct improvement you're going to see in your score.
So how many products do you guys have now?
Well, I mean, I would say if we look at our products, like there's the data tracking side.
Yeah. Because you guys are doing some cool stuff. I mean, I was on the site yesterday and I was like, holy crap, they're actually building smart grips now. I'm like, that's brilliant. Like now you don't have to screw it into your club. Like you just get the grip, you know,
so
like that's like.
So we have like you basically on the data, like sensor side, which is to capture the data for your shots. You can either have buy our smart sensors,
which is just like, for people who don't know, it's like you screw this plug, I guess, supposed to have saying in the top of the grip, right? You don't ever notice, you don't see it, but it's like it stays in the grip, the top, right? And that was the initial design, right? And then you still sell that, but now it's like they moved past that. Now they're doing like stuff with like it's actually incorporated into the grip, right? Like,
correct. Yeah. So now it's embedded. Like so, you can you can get either version. So you can get the smart sensor, or you can get smart grips that have the sensors embedded. And we have Golf Bride and Lambkin grips for that. Cool. And so that's kind of on the sensors. And you can buy smart sets, which already have. So Ping, Cobra, all their new lines, like G425 just being launched right now, Rad Speed with Cobra. They have Arccos already installed in the clubs.
It's already built in. Was the first brand to do that with you? Was that Cobra?
That was Cobra.
Was that with the F8, F9?
That was with actually.
Or before that, or that
F7 with the drivers. We started with the drivers, and then in F8 it was like across the line, and since then it's been in every club.
I just remember that's the first time I remember hearing your guys' name, because it was with Arccos, and I was like, "What's Arccos?" You know what I mean? Like, that's cool as hell. And that was
a very important partnership for us, and it still is. And we've done awesome things together. We've connected so many golfers together, and led to a lot of improvement. But yeah, so you can either buy, on the sensor side, you can either buy smart sensors or grips or smart sets. And what they're doing is they're connecting to a GPS receiver, which can be your phone. So it can be your Android or iOS phone. It can be your Apple Watch, if you're one of those.
Yeah, I saw that. That just came out, right? You guys are releasing that now with the Apple Watch?
It's going to be coming out of beta, it's right now in beta. It's going to be coming out of beta in 1 month. Or you can get Link, which is a device you can clip on to your belt if you don't want to play with the watch or your phone. And it's specifically, that Link is designed by us. And that's recording combination of the sensors, and Link or Apple Watch or your cell phone is recording the location of every shot you're taking and a bunch of parameters around it, where you started, what hole, what club you used, did the shot end up 5 yards into the rough, did it end up in the bunker, how far did it go, all that stuff.
Cool. So if you didn't have an Apple Watch or a phone on you, and you just want to play golf, you can have the Link, right? And that will record it, so that when you're back home or wherever, then it will just
as soon as you come back within range with your phone, it'll automatically download all the data to your phone.
That's so awesome.
It's actually an amazing piece of technology. And then that's on the data capture side. Yeah. We give you a bunch of different options depending upon your preferences, both on the sensors and the cell phone Link watch. And then on the software side, the data analytics side, we have an amazing app. We have really phenomenal designers and engineers who build beautiful things. And so I think what you get is the kind of insight that honestly, even PGA Tour pros don't necessarily get from the PGA Tour website, actually, because it's not the greatest, I would say, visualization and of strokes gained on the PGA Tour side.
No, because that's a lot of everyone else, or a lot of people, brands, companies, we want to call it, they're not spending the money on the technology, they're not, or on the design. They're just, it's like a throwaway to them. It's like, oh yeah, we have that, but it's like they put no energy into it, so that's what you get, right?
Yeah, exactly. And for us, design is very, very important. It's central to what we do. So we spend a lot of time designing the right interfaces. So it's giving you effectively in the most effective and visually appealing way, the most important pieces of information you need to know about your game to get better. And that's why our average user in their first year, last year, if you were a first-time user in the Arccos ecosystem last year, your average improvement was 5.02 shots, which that's something we track and we're proud of. Yeah, it's not surprising to us anymore. But
it's going to get better too. It's going to get better over time. You know what I mean? Because that's your first year. You're still going to get better that's just your initial gain.
Yeah. So it's, basically, and then we give you information, strokes gain analysis about your game. We give you what the strokes gain analysis, without getting into too many details, does is it pinpoints exactly what you should be working on. Where are you losing strokes? Might be for you, it's from maybe all your shots from 150 to 200 yards because you're hitting a lot of them. That plus it might be putting from 10 to 25 feet. And so we really pinpoint and target exactly what your weaknesses are. And then the other thing I think that's fascinating that we do is we give you a real accounting of how far your clubs actually go, so that you make better decisions. And what that results in, I think we have had a bunch of people at our company who've had holes in one recently over the past 3-4 years. And I was this rate of holes in one, we're a small company, too many people, we're not that good in terms of
we're not that good.
Level golfers.
This is the Yale. This is not the Yale years. Okay, this is baby and working full time and COVID.
Yeah, so we did a study of basically how many of our users are getting holes in one, and you're 5 times more likely, I think 5.6 times more likely to get a hole in one with Arccos, because when you step up to the tee box, now you know your 8-iron goes 142, not 150. So you're gonna get the
it's
ball.
not like it's like
to the
a
ball.
reality check, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not like, oh, I hit a 7-iron 175 yards. It's like bullshit. You hit it like 140.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, you hit it 150 maybe like 1 times out of 10.
Yeah,
but that's
the one time. That's what you remember. It's like, oh, I'm 150 out. Actually, the 7-iron, and you always hit it short, or whatever. No, it's cool though, because tour players know whether it's with how hard they hit, how far they hit it normally, But like, people like you and me don't. We have no idea. We think we know.
In fact, like, what's funny is when you talk about tour players. So Bubba Watson's caddy Ted Scott, he actually uses. I mean, he's a big Arccos user, but he also will go. Like, we have this AI rangefinder, which takes all the wind, elevation, all that stuff into account to give your distances, and so he'll utilize that to map courses beforehand, because like during the round he can't use Arccos Caddie rangefinder.
No, you're not. Yeah,
which I would say like they should be able to, but because it's the same thing. They're writing it down beforehand, but that's how he does it. And like all these guys, so it really is like great insight into how does wind affect your ball. Like if it's coming 20 miles an hour in your face, but at a 30-degree angle, we can't figure it out. However, PGA Tour pros can, because they spend a lot of time. They have all of this literally written down. Like when you look at their, like Bryson DeChambeau's card next to the bag, like they're like literally, they know how much wind is coming and what the impact is. But that's because that's their full-time job. Like that's what Bryson and his caddy do all day. That's what Ted Scott and Bubba Watson do all day. But as average golfers, we shouldn't be expected to get those printouts and do all that stuff. Like USGA should let us use this technology.
I love it. I seriously love what you guys are doing. It's so.
By the way, like just to be clear, we have a conforming version of the app and non-conforming. There's just a toggle, and the only thing, the only difference is in the non-conforming version, we give you rangefinder recommendations based on taking live weather data into account, and elevation and all that stuff.
It's so freaking cool, dude. I'm sorry. It's just so cool. Like I love tech, but when you hear, like, I didn't know to what extent this could do. I knew it did, you know what I mean? But when you start telling me, I'm like, holy crap. It's like,
it's cool.
It's cool. And you're always developing it, right? You're always making it better,
like
faster, stronger.
I would say we're like 5% of probably where we want to be in the next few years.
Yeah. And what's cool is like, you're not,
we see it.
You still treat it as a startup. You know what I mean? Like your team is what, 20, 30 people, right?
We're maybe like, well, not counting people in the factory manufacturing, we're probably like 50-ish.
Yeah. So you're still, you still treat it as a lean startup.
We're a startup.
You're a startup that's like, is a real disruptor, right? If you think about it, like you think about these just in the game of golf, but also just in technology wise, that I don't know. Imagine what's going to be like in 5 years, right? Look how far you've come in the last 5 years. Imagine the next 5 years is going to be.
Yeah, we're very excited about it, and I think like we view ourselves. Maybe, I mean, we don't like to use the word disruptors internally. We think we are actually a net like add to the entire industry, because like what we're doing is allowing the existing structures of golf to get smarter and more efficient, whether it's R&D for OEMs or like the course superintendents having heat maps so that they know where people are walking and taking their shots from, which will lead to 40 to 70% savings in irrigation according to the USGA if they have Arccos or Arccos-like data. So I think we view ourselves as bringing data enlightenment to golf, which will help all of us like perform better, whether it's a golfer or the golf industry.
Oh, I just think it's amazing what you guys are doing. I mean, I'm excited to like be working with you guys because I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I've been a fan from far away, right? And then, but I got, like we were talking before the show, and they sent me some stuff to test, and I can't wait to do it because I've always wanted to see what this could do. I just haven't had a chance to test it out. So, I mean, you guys are doing some amazing stuff. Like, honestly, I don't say that often. Like, or even, I don't know. I'm just excited. Honestly, this is really cool. You guys have to check it out. I mean, first of all, to have Sal on the show is Sal's busy, but they like know all the things that's happening behind the scenes and like how they're growing. And it's just, I don't know. I think this year's gonna be a huge year for you guys, honestly. I bet last year was massive, right? Because it was for everybody pretty much. But now it's like, I'm seeing it now in the tech space, especially when it comes to golf equipment, because people are stuck at home. So it's like people are jonesing to play golf because we have all these new players, right? And if you think about the new generations that are coming into the game that have never played, right? They're between the ages of like 20 and 40, let's say. They're already technically savvy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they want some tech to help them get better. So it's
Our average user, though, I mean, like when we design for, like we have, like, generally when new tech comes in, it's generally the younger demographic that's kind of like leading the charge, and then it goes up the age scale. But our average user is 55 or 54, but that's hardly like our OEM partnerships and where golf sits. But
that's sales, right? Like it's because you're with the OEMs, and now people are. I mean, that's a brilliant move, right? So if you guys weren't with the OEMs, then it's a bigger hill for you guys to climb, because you would have to, how are we going to sell products? Yeah. I mean, that was massive, right? Once you got in the OEM's hands, it's like, oh, nice. But now with the grips, right? Like, I think that's another thing too, because a lot of people don't go out and buy new drivers every year in new clubs, right? Because they don't afford it. They can't afford it. They don't care, whatever it might be. But now you have almost like 3 options. You can get a new one, new club. You can get the grip through Golf Pride or Lambkin, or you can get the sensors like the original way. So, well, thank you for being on the show. I'm gonna have you come back.
Thanks, Paul.
I have more questions. I have more questions for you, but I know you're a busy man. But thank you for being on the show. I'm really excited to work with Arccos. I have a lot more questions, but I didn't even get to them. So
we'll save it for the next time.
I'm going to. You're gonna be my new best friend. And so check out Arccos, you guys. It's arccos.com, right? That's
arccosgolf.com.
arccosgolf.com. A lot of you guys already know what it is. So if you don't, check it out. We will be reviewing it on the site, and I'll be doing an unboxing video. So I'm super excited about that. But thank you for being on the show today, Sal. Real pleasure. Finally get to meet you. And
great
I look
chatting with you.
forward to doing more stuff with you guys.
See ya.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Behind the Golf Brand Podcast.
You're gonna beat me at golf?
Stay connected on and off the show by visiting golfersauthority.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment.
Golf is always more fun when you win.
Stay out of the beach and see you on the green.